Jackie Parker stared at the pink slip in her hand for the 12th time that day. Not because she expected the words to change, but because her brain refused to process the cosmic unfairness of it all. 3 nursing degrees, 8 years of experience, and perfect performance reviews, she muttered to her empty apartment. But sure, budget cuts, makes perfect sense. Her cat Hippocrates, Hippo for short, offered a sympathetic meow from his perch on the kitchen counter. At least someone in this apartment still appreciated her medical expertise. Thanks for the support, buddy. Unfortunately, your admiration doesn't pay the rent. Jackie tossed the termination letter onto her coffee table, where it joined a growing collection of rejection emails from her job applications. The wall clock ticked mockingly as she opened her laptop. The bank account balance displayed on screen might as well have been a doomsday clock, counting down the weeks before she'd be forced to call her mother and admit defeat. 3 weeks if she stretched her savings and ate nothing but ramen. Let's see what exciting opportunities await today, Jackie said, opening the healthcare job board. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing experienced ER nurse seeks position where soul-crushing corporate healthcare hasn't completely destroyed patient care. She deleted it with a sigh and typed something more professional. Outside her window, the April rain pattered against the glass. Mercy General Hospital was visible in the distance, its lights glowing through the mist. The same hospital where just yesterday, administration had gathered the nursing staff to announce the Strategic Workforce Optimization Initiative. Corporate speak for "we're firing 20% of you despite record profits." Her phone buzzed with a text from Ronnie, her former colleague who'd somehow survived the culling. "Missing your sarcasm in the break room. Dr. Fleming keeps asking where the competent one went." Jackie smiled despite herself. At least Dr. Fleming had appreciated her. The ancient surgeon had been at Mercy General since the Stone Age, and had seen enough administrative nonsense to last several lifetimes. "Tell him I've been promoted to professional job applicant," Jackie typed back. "The pay is terrible but the commute is great." She closed her laptop and wandered to the kitchen. The refrigerator offered few options: half a bottle of kombucha, some questionable cheese, and condiments. Lots of condiments. What do you think, Hippo? Ketchup sandwich or mustard soup? The cat blinked slowly, judgment in his yellow eyes. "Fine. Delivery it is. One last splurge before poverty." As Jackie reached for her phone to order, the entire apartment shook. The windows rattled in their frames. Pictures fell from the walls. Hippo yowled and disappeared under the couch. Earthquake. Jackie stumbled to the window, peering out into the rainy darkness. The apartment complex was on the edge of town, backing up against the state forest. From her third-floor window she could see trees swaying in the distance, then a flash of light. Not lightning, something brighter, more concentrated. It streaked down from the clouds and disappeared into the forest with a distant thunderous crash. Jackie's nursing instincts kicked in instantly. Someone could be hurt. Her termination letter might say she wasn't employed as a nurse anymore, but it couldn't strip away what she was. "Just my luck," she muttered, already grabbing her raincoat and emergency medical kit. "Unemployed for 1 day and the universe decides to test my commitment to the Hippocratic Oath." She paused at the door, glancing back at her frightened cat. "Don't wait up, Hippo. Apparently the universe has decided that being jobless wasn't enough excitement for 1 day." The rain had transformed from a gentle patter to a proper downpour by the time Jackie reached the forest edge. Her flashlight beam cut weakly through the darkness, creating more shadows than it dispelled. "Hello," she called out, feeling ridiculous. Anyone need medical assistance after falling dramatically from the sky? Only the steady drumming of raindrops on leaves answered her. The rational part of her brain, the part that had gotten her through med school and 8 years of ER chaos, was screaming that this was how horror movies started. "Unemployed woman wanders alone into dark forest, never returns." Film at 11. But something else drove her forward. Maybe it was professional obligation, maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the simple fact that helping others was hardwired into her DNA, regardless of employment status. This would be so much easier if whatever crashed could just send up a flare or something, Jackie grumbled, pushing through wet underbrush. As if responding to her complaint, a strange blue glow appeared between the trees ahead. Jackie froze, suddenly reconsidering her life choices. That didn't look like any emergency flare she'd ever seen. "Well, I've come this far," she said to no one in particular, and pushed forward toward the light. What she found in the small clearing made her medical kit slip from numb fingers. It wasn't a plane, helicopter or weather balloon. It wasn't anything that belonged on Earth at all. The crumpled mass of gleaming metal resembled an oversized teardrop, partially buried in the forest floor. Steam rose from its surface where raindrops hit, creating an eerie mist around it. "Okay," Jackie whispered. "Either I'm hallucinating, or I've just found E.T.'s car." But what really made her heart rate spike wasn't the crashed vessel, it was what lay beside it. The creature was approximately the size of a horse, but any resemblance to Earth fauna ended there. Its body was covered in what appeared to be scales, iridescent things that shifted color with each labored breath. 4 limbs, plus what looked like wings folded against its back, and a long serpentine neck ending in a distinctly reptilian head. "A dragon," Jackie breathed, her mind struggling to process what her eyes were seeing. An actual, honest-to-goodness alien dragon. The creature's eyes fluttered open at the sound of her voice. 3 eyes, Jackie noted hysterically, all glowing the same blue as the crashed ship. For the love of all sentient species, the dragon groaned in perfect English, each word punctuated by a flash of blue light from what appeared to be a small device around its neck. "Please tell me this isn't one of those Class 3 backwater planets." Jackie stared, mouth agape. "You speak English. With a translator. And you're an alien dragon. And you're stating the blindingly obvious," the creature retorted, attempting to rise before collapsing back with a pained hiss. "Yes, I'm using a universal translator. No, I'm not a dragon, whatever primitive myth that references. I'm a draconian. 4th Royal House of the Cygnus Collective." The creature, draconian, attempted to lift its head, then let it fall back with a groan. "I don't suppose you primitive bipeds have mastered basic medicine yet. Or are you still at the rub dirt in it and praise stage of healthcare?" Something in Jackie snapped. Maybe it was the stress of losing her job. Maybe it was the absurdity of the situation. Or maybe it was just being called primitive by a crash-landed alien. "Listen here, your royal scaliness," she said, kneeling beside the creature and opening her medical kit. "I may be unemployed as of yesterday, but I'm still a fully qualified emergency nurse with 8 years of trauma experience. So how about you dial back the attitude and tell me where you're hurt?" All 3 of the alien's eyes blinked in surprise. "You're a medical professional, registered nurse, specializing in emergency medicine. Jackie Parker. At your service." She pulled on latex gloves with a practiced snap. "Now, I've never treated an alien dragon before, but patient care is patient care. Where does it hurt, and can you tell me about your physiology?" The draconian made a sound that might have been a laugh. "My name is Crix," it said, voice softening. "And I believe I may have seriously misjudged your species." "Yeah, well, that happens a lot," Jackie replied, already examining what appeared to be a nasty gash along Crix's side, leaking a phosphorescent blue fluid. "Now, is this your blood, and is it supposed to be glowing like that?" Crix winced as Jackie probed gently around the wound. "Yes to both questions. And before you ask, yes, I'm warm-blooded. No, I don't breathe fire. And my scales are semi-permeable membranes, not armor." "Great," Jackie said, rummaging through her kit. "That means antiseptics might work, assuming your biochemistry isn't wildly different from Earth life." She pulled out gauze, antiseptic wipes, and a suture kit, then paused, looking at the alien with sudden uncertainty. "I should warn you, I'm trained to treat humans. I could end up making things worse." Crix's 3 eyes studied her with unexpected intensity. "You're the first being on this planet to show concern for my well-being, rather than running away screaming or trying to capture me for study. I'll take my chances with your care. Nurse Jackie Parker." Jackie nodded, taking a deep breath to steady her hands. "All right then, let's get to work. And while I'm patching you up, maybe you can explain what a royal draconian is doing crash-landing in a forest outside Cleveland, Ohio, of all places." Crix made that strange laughing sound again. "It's a long story involving royal succession politics, a malfunctioning navigational system, and extremely bad luck." The alien winced as Jackie began cleaning the wound. "Though perhaps my luck is changing. I wouldn't count on it," Jackie replied, threading a needle with steady hands despite the surreal situation. "You crashed in front of probably the only unemployed nurse desperate enough to wander into a forest during a rainstorm." "Unemployed?" Crix tilted its head curiously. "Long story, involving hospital politics, budget cuts, and extremely bad luck," Jackie echoed with a wry smile. "Now hold still, this might sting a bit. As the rain continued to pour around them, Jackie realized that for the first time since receiving her pink slip, she felt purposeful again. Even if that purpose was stitching up an alien dragon in the middle of a rainy forest, some days you just had to embrace the absurd. So your species has mastered interstellar travel but not basic first aid? Jackie asked, carefully suturing the gash on Crix's side. The blue blood glowed more intensely whenever she touched it, making her impromptu surgery session feel like operating under a blacklight at a rave. We have excellent medical technology, Crix replied defensively. Unfortunately, none of it is currently with me. Royal escape pods sacrifice medical supplies for speed and stealth capabilities. Escape pods, royal succession politics. You're starting to sound like a space opera, Jackie muttered, tying off another suture. Hold still, this next part is going to hurt. Crix's three eyes narrowed. I assure you I can tolerate pain beyond what your species would. Scree. The alien's dignified speech dissolved into what could only be described as a reptilian shriek as Jackie applied antiseptic to the wound. Sorry about that, Jackie said, not sounding sorry at all. Just needed to make sure we don't get any earth bacteria setting up shop in your whatever this organ is. She gestured to a pulsating blue sac visible through the wound. That's my secondary respiratory chamber, Crix said stiffly, clearly trying to regain composure, and I was merely expressing surprise, not pain. Sure you were, Jackie replied, reaching for the gauze. Just like my patients who swear they're not a baby about needles right before fainting at the sight of one. As she worked, the rain slowly tapered off, allowing Jackie to better assess her patient's condition. Besides the main gash she was treating, Crix had multiple abrasions and what appeared to be a dislocated limb, or at least, she assumed it was dislocated based on the awkward angle, and Crix's reluctance to move it. So this might be a silly question, but do your limbs normally bend that way? Jackie pointed to what she'd mentally labeled as Crix's right foreleg. The alien followed her gaze and made a clicking sound that her translator didn't convert. No, that's broken, or what you might call dislocated. Jackie nodded. That's what I figured. I can try to set it, but I'll need something to use as a splint. She looked around at the fallen branches surrounding them. There should be medical supplies in my pod, Crix offered, including cellular regeneration units that could heal both injuries. Great. Where's the first aid kit kept? Crix's expression, though alien, somehow conveyed chagrin. Behind the emergency release panel, which is currently crushed against the ground. Jackie sighed. Of course it is. Well, back to Stone Age medicine then. She selected a relatively straight branch and began removing smaller twigs. What exactly are you planning to do with that primitive implement? Crix asked, all three eyes tracking her movements with alarm. I'm going to set your dislocated limb and splint it. Basic field medicine. Jackie offered what she hoped was a reassuring smile. I've done this dozens of times for human patients in wilderness emergencies. But I'm not human. No, but physics works the same way for both our species, I bet. Jackie positioned herself beside the injured limb. This will hurt. A lot. Ready? Crix's head swiveled nervously. Perhaps we should wait for my family to. With one swift movement, Jackie pulled and twisted the limb back into alignment. This time the shriek that emerged from Crix couldn't possibly be mistaken for anything other than pain. Several nearby birds took flight in alarm. There we go, Jackie said calmly, already wrapping the splint in place with bandages from her kit. The worst part's over. You. Crix seemed unable to find words in any language the translator could handle. Saved you from potential long-term mobility issues. You're welcome. Jackie patted the splinted limb gently. The translator around your neck, is it waterproof? Because I need to clean these other abrasions, and I don't want to short-circuit our ability to communicate. Crix was still breathing heavily, but managed to respond. Yes, draconian technology doesn't fail due to simple moisture. Great, because nothing about this situation is simple. Jackie began carefully cleaning the smaller wounds, noting with fascination how Crix's scales seemed to shift colors in response to her touch, from deep indigo to a lighter. You're remarkably composed for someone performing medical procedures on an alien species, Crix observed after a few minutes of silence. Jackie shrugged. I've worked weekend nights in a Level I trauma center. Once you've pumped a man's stomach after he ate 15 Tide Pods on a dare, an alien dragon doesn't seem that weird. My species is considered quite intimidating across the galaxy, Crix noted, sounding almost disappointed. I'm sure you are. But right now, you're just another patient who needs help. Jackie finished bandaging the last of the abrasions and sat back on her heels. Besides, after the day I've had treating royalty, even alien royalty, feels like a step up. For the first time, Crick seemed genuinely curious. You mentioned being unemployed. What does this mean exactly? It means I got fired, let go, made redundant. Jackie's hands stilled momentarily. After 8 years of service, my hospital decided they could increase profits by decreasing the number of qualified nurses. Your healing facility, discharged a healer, to increase wealth. All three of Crick's eyes blinked in what appeared to be confusion. That seems counterproductive to the facility's purpose. Jackie let out a bark of laughter. Welcome to American healthcare, where patient outcomes are secondary to shareholder returns. She began packing up her supplies, suddenly aware of how cold and wet she was after kneeling in the mud for over an hour. Anyway, you should be stable now. Those sutures need to stay in for, well, I have no idea how quickly your species heals, so let's just say until the wound closes completely. My regenerative capabilities are considerably faster than humans, Crick said. These would heal completely within one of your Earth days, even without medical intervention. The alien paused, then added, though the quality of your care may accelerate that process. Was that a compliment, from your royal scaliness? Jackie grinned. I'm honored. Crick made a huffing sound. It was merely an observation. However, the alien shifted, wincing slightly. I am grateful for your assistance. Don't mention it. All part of the service. Jackie stood up, stretching her stiff legs. So what's the plan now? You mentioned family coming to find you. Crick nodded, scales rippling in what might have been embarrassment. Yes, once they realize I've activated the emergency beacon, they'll trace my location. I estimate their arrival within your planet's next rotational cycle. So, by tomorrow morning, Jackie translated. Approximately, yes. Jackie glanced at her watch. Nearly 2 a.m. Well, I can't just leave you out here in the woods. Do you think you can move? My apartment isn't far, and it's at least dry. The alien attempted to stand, wobbling precariously on 3 good legs. Believe I can manage with assistance. Great, Jackie said, moving to support Crick's injured side. Just lean on me and try not to impale me with any spiky bits I haven't noticed yet. Draconians don't have spiky bits, Crick replied, sounding offended. We are an elegant species renowned for our smooth scaling, and, it was a joke, Jackie interrupted, adjusting her stance to better support the surprisingly heavy alien. Something humans do to lighten tense situations. Humor. We have this concept as well, though ours typically revolves around the gravitational inconsistencies of gas giants. Jackie blinked. I can't wait to hear those jokes. As they began their slow, awkward journey back toward the apartment complex, Crick suddenly spoke again. Nurse Jackie Parker. Just Jackie is fine. Jackie, when my family arrives, I believe they will be interested to meet the being who provided medical care to a royal heir of the Cygnus Collective. Well, I'll be happy to meet them too. Though fair warning, my apartment is small, and I only have leftover pizza to offer as refreshments. Crick made the strange laughing sound again. I don't think refreshments will be an issue, but you might want to prepare yourself. For what? Jackie asked, maneuvering them around a fallen log. Let's just say that draconian royalty doesn't travel subtly. Great, Jackie muttered, because what this day needs is more drama. As they emerged from the forest edge, the first hints of dawn were lightening the eastern sky. Jackie wondered how she was going to explain an alien dragon to her neighbors if they ran into anyone in the hallway. But then again, maybe being known as that crazy lady with the lizard would be a step up from that poor nurse who got laid off. Jackie awakened to the insistent buzz of her phone vibrating against her nightstand. She groaned, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache. Memories of the previous night flooded back, the crash, the alien, the surreal trek back to her apartment. Speaking of which, she bolted upright, scanning her living room where she'd left Crick resting on a nest of spare blankets. The makeshift bed was empty, blankets neatly folded into a precise stack. Crick, she called out, suddenly wondering if the entire experience had been some stress-induced hallucination. In your food preparation area, came the reply, the translator giving Crick's voice a slightly metallic edge. I hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of analyzing your available nutrition sources. Jackie stumbled into the kitchen to find the Royal Draconian examining her open refrigerator with all three eyes. The splinted limb held carefully against its body. Your sustenance options are concerning, Crix observed. According to my scans, this container of yogurt expired 18 days ago. Yeah, well, grocery shopping hasn't been a priority since the layoff. Jackie ran a hand through her tangled hair, suddenly conscious of how she must look. How are your injuries? Crix rotated to show the previously sutured side. The wound had already closed into a thin line, the blue blood no longer seeping through the bandages. Healing progresses satisfactorily. Your primitive methods were surprisingly effective. Thanks, I think. Jackie reached past the alien to grab the coffee pot. I need caffeine before I can properly process compliments from extraterrestrial royalty. As she measured coffee grounds, a sound like distant thunder rumbled through the apartment. The mugs in her cabinet rattled. Hippo, who had been cautiously observing the alien visitor from atop the refrigerator, disappeared into the bedroom with a frightened yowl. What was that? Jackie asked, peering out her kitchen window. Crix's scales shifted to a brighter blue. Ah, it appears my family has arrived. Another rumble, louder this time, shook the entire building. Jackie abandoned the coffee and rushed to her living room window, pulling back the curtains. What she saw made her coffee mug slip from suddenly numb fingers. 4 massive ships hovered above her apartment complex. Not UFOs as depicted in sci-fi movies. These were unmistakably luxury vessels, their gleaming hulls adorned with what appeared to be ornate gold filigree. Each was roughly the size of a cruise ship, suspended impossibly in midair above the parking lot, casting enormous shadows over the entire neighborhood. Those are your family ships, Jackie whispered, watching as smaller craft began to descend from the larger vessels. The royal convoy, yes, Crix replied, hobbling to the window. Only 4 ships. They must have been truly worried. Normally the royal procession includes at least 12 vessels. Outside, pandemonium was breaking loose. Neighbors poured from the apartment building, some still in pajamas, phones held aloft to record the spectacle. In the distance, sirens wailed as emergency vehicles responded to what must have been hundreds of panicked calls. Crix, Jackie said slowly. When you said your family doesn't travel subtly. Indeed, the Cygnus Collective believes that royal appearances should inspire appropriate awe. Crix's head tilted in what might have been embarrassment. In retrospect, perhaps I should have mentioned the scale. You think? Jackie watched as a particularly ornate shuttle descended to land directly in her building's parking lot, crushing at least 3 cars beneath it. Mrs. Herschel from 2B is going to be really upset about her Volvo. Compensation will be provided, Crix assured her, as though discussing a minor fender bender rather than a scene from an alien invasion movie. Jackie's phone buzzed again. This time it was a news alert. Breaking: alien craft appear over Cleveland suburbs, military mobilizing. Oh, this is bad, she muttered. Very bad. I should contact them before your military responds inappropriately. Crix said, surprisingly calm. May I use your communications balcony? My what? You mean the fire escape? Sure, whatever. As Crix limped toward the window, Jackie's phone rang. It was Rani from the hospital. Jackie, are you seeing this? There are alien ships over your neighborhood. Rani's voice was pitched high with excitement. We can see them from the hospital. Dr. Fleming is having a meltdown, and the ER is filling up with people having panic attacks. Yeah, about that. Jackie watched as Crix climbed awkwardly onto the fire escape. Would you believe me if I told you I know what's going on? Before Rani could respond, a blinding light erupted from the parking lot. A beam from the ornate shuttle swept across the apartment building before settling on Crix's position on the fire escape. Target identified, boomed a voice that seemed to emanate from everywhere at once, the words translating in multiple Earth languages simultaneously. Royal Heir Crix of House Celestia, 4th dynasty of the Cygnus Collective, located. Oh my God, Rani breathed through the phone. Jackie, what is happening? I may have accidentally saved an alien prince last night, Jackie replied, watching as the beam widened to encompass her entire fire escape. And I think I'm about to meet the in-laws. The light suddenly expanded to engulf her entire apartment. Jackie felt a strange tingling sensation, and then her modest living room was filled with what could only be described as alien royal guards. Tall, elegant beings with the same draconian features as Crix, but adorned in gleaming armor that seemed to shift colors with every movement. "Your Highness," the apparent leader addressed Crix, who had returned through the window. "We have been searching the quadrant. The royal family is most distressed." "There's no need to shout, Commander Zrel," Crix replied calmly. "And please modulate your translator. You're frightening my medical attendant." All eyes, and there were many given that each draconian had three, turned to Jackie, who stood frozen in her pajamas, coffee grounds still clutched in one hand, phone in the other. She managed. "This is the human who aided you." The commander's voice had lowered slightly but remained dramatically formal. "Yes, Nurse Jackie Parker provided emergency medical care after my crash landing." Crix gestured toward Jackie with a wing-like appendage. "Without her intervention, my injuries might have been significantly worse." The commander and his entourage immediately executed what appeared to be an elaborate bow, their scales rippling in synchronized patterns of blue and gold. "The royal family extends its deepest gratitude, Nurse Jackie Parker of Earth," the commander intoned. "Your service to the heir of the Cygnus Collective shall be recognized throughout the 12 systems." "You're welcome," Jackie replied, aware that she was still in her ratty pajamas with bed hair. It was really just basic first aid. From her forgotten phone, Ronnie's voice squeaked. "Jackie, are you talking to aliens?" "I'll call you back," Jackie said faintly, ending the call. Outside, the commotion had intensified. Through her window, Jackie could see news helicopters circling at a cautious distance, and what appeared to be military vehicles establishing a perimeter around the block. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion aboard the royal vessel," Crix suggested, nodding toward the growing chaos outside. "Your planet's authorities seem concerned." "That's one word for it," Jackie muttered, glancing at the television where emergency broadcasts were now showing live footage of her apartment building surrounded by alien ships. The headline banner read, "First Contact, Alien Vessels Appear Over Cleveland." The commander gestured toward the window. "The royal flagship awaits. The Imperial Silver and requests an immediate audience." Jackie blinked. "The who wants what now?" "My mother," Crix clarified. "The Empress wishes to meet you personally." "It's considered a great honor." Jackie looked down at her coffee-stained pajamas. "Can I at least change first? I'm not really dressed for an Imperial audience." Crix's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. "Of course, though I should warn you, we're on a rather tight schedule. Once your military mobilizes further, diplomatic complications may arise." As if to emphasize this point, the distant sound of fighter jets could now be heard approaching. "Right," Jackie said, hurrying toward her bedroom. 5 minutes. "Don't start an interstellar incident while I'm getting dressed." "We shall await your preparation, honored healer," the commander called after her. As Jackie frantically searched for something vaguely presentable to wear while meeting alien royalty, she caught sight of her reflection in the mirror. Dark circles under her eyes, hair sticking up at odd angles, expression a mixture of panic and disbelief. "Just yesterday I was worried about making rent," she told her reflection. "Now I'm preparing to meet the Empress of an alien collective while military jets circle my apartment." Somewhere in the chaos, Hippo meowed plaintively from under the bed. "I know, buddy," Jackie sighed, pulling on the least wrinkled shirt she could find. "I'm pretty sure this isn't covered in the nursing manual either." The royal flagship of the Cygnus Collective made the luxury cruise ships of Earth look like inflatable pool toys. Jackie stood in what Crix had casually referred to as one of the smaller reception chambers, trying not to gawk at her surroundings like the provincial earthling she suddenly felt like. The chamber was easily the size of a basketball court, with soaring ceilings that shimmered with what appeared to be living constellations. The floor beneath her feet was some kind of transparent crystal that revealed the Earth slowly rotating below, a view that had momentarily sent Jackie into a mild panic attack when she first stepped onto it. "The Imperial Sovereign approaches," Crix murmured beside her. "Remember to bow your head but maintain eye contact with her central eye only. It's considered respectful." "Right. Head down, middle eye contact. Don't throw up from vertigo," Jackie muttered. "Got it." Before Crix could respond, a series of melodic tones echoed through the chamber. The assembled draconian court members, at least 30 elegant alien dragons arranged in a semicircle, dropped into synchronized bows. A set of crystalline doors at the far end of the chamber parted, and Jackie forgot every protocol Crix had hastily explained during their shuttle ride. The Empress of the Cygnus Collective was magnificent. Nearly twice the size of the other draconians, her scales shimmered with colors Jackie couldn't even name. hues that seemed to exist somewhere between ultraviolet and infrared. A complex network of delicate chains and jewels draped her serpentine form, and atop her regal head sat a crown that appeared to be made of captured starlight. Nurse Jackie Parker of Earth. The Empress's voice resonated through the chamber, her translator giving the words a musical quality that the guard's devices had lacked. "We welcome you to the royal vessel Celestial Dawn." Jackie remembered to bow, though she forgot the eye contact rule entirely, her gaze dropping to the transparent floor, where Ohio was now a distant smudge. "Thank you, Your Imperial Sovereign," she replied, hoping she'd gotten the title right. "It's an honor to be here." The Empress glided forward with surprising grace for such a large being. All three of her eyes, larger and more luminous than those of her subjects, studied Jackie with open curiosity. "Our child speaks highly of your medical skills," the Empress continued, circling Jackie slowly. "Despite your planet's primitive technology, you managed to treat royal injuries with nothing but fabric and sticks. Put that way, it didn't sound particularly impressive." "I just did what any nurse would do," Jackie said, fighting the urge to add that the sticks were standard medical splints in wilderness first aid. The Empress completed her circle and came to rest before Jackie. Up close her scales were even more mesmerizing, shifting and flowing like liquid galaxies. "Modesty," the Empress observed. "An unusual trait among healers. In our experience those with medical knowledge often wield it as power." Jackie thought of certain surgeons she'd worked with and fought back a smile. "Some human doctors are like that too." Nurse Parker was recently discharged from her healing facility, Crix interjected, limping forward. Despite her obvious competence, her services were deemed unnecessary. The Empress's three eyes blinked in unison, her scales darkening to a deep indigo. "Explain." Jackie shifted uncomfortably. "It's nothing really. Budget cuts. Happens all the time in our healthcare system. Your planet discards skilled healers while maintaining combat forces sufficient to surround our vessels within hours." The Empress's tone made it clear what she thought of these priorities. Indeed, through the transparent floor, Jackie could now make out the tiny shapes of military aircraft maintaining a perimeter around the alien ships. "Yeah, our species has some weird priorities," Jackie admitted. "But really, it's fine. I'll find another job eventually." The Empress and Crix exchanged looks that somehow conveyed volumes despite their alien features. "Nurse Parker," the Empress said, her voice softening slightly, "the Cygnus Collective owes you a debt for saving our heir. Customarily, such a debt would be repaid with rare minerals or perhaps a small moon." Jackie blinked. "In moon, nothing habitable," Crix clarified quickly, "just a decorative one. However," the Empress continued, "we believe we can offer something of greater value to you." She raised one elegant limb, and a draconian courtier stepped forward bearing what appeared to be a crystalline tablet. "The Royal Healing Corps has never had a human member," Crix explained, eyes bright with excitement. "But Mother, I mean the Imperial Sovereign, believes your unique perspective could be valuable." "Wait," Jackie said slowly, looking between Crix and the Empress. "Are you offering me a job?" "Not merely a job," the Empress corrected. "A position as Royal Medical Advisor to the Cygnus Collective. Your insights into primitive, forgive me, alternative medical techniques could prove invaluable in emergency situations where our technology is compromised." The courtier presented the tablet to Jackie. On its surface, glowing symbols rearranged themselves into English as she watched. It was a contract, she realized, an employment contract. "The compensation package is on the second page," Crix prompted when Jackie remained silent. She swiped her finger across the crystal surface, and numbers appeared. Her eyes widened. "This can't be right," she said. "That's a lot of zeros." "Standard compensation for a royal advisor," the Empress stated, as if discussing pocket change, "plus housing aboard the Royal Medical Frigate, in limited use of collective transportation nodes and comprehensive health coverage." Of course," Jackie echoed faintly. "Universal health care, most universal," Crix agreed, "covering all 12 systems of the collective." Jackie stared at the contract, mind racing. Leave Earth, become an alien royal medical advisor. It was absurd. Impossible. The plot of a bad sci-fi movie. And yet, what exactly would I be doing? She asked cautiously. The Empress's scales brightened. "Primarily research and training. Our medical corps relies heavily on technology. Your experience working without such aids could help prepare them for situations where technology fails. Basically, you'd teach our doctors how to think on their feet. Crix added, like you did in the forest. And I'd live in space. The medical frigate orbits the Collective's primary worlds on a rotating schedule, the Empress explained, though you would be free to return to Earth for visits whenever you wish. A draconian courtier leaned toward the Empress, whispering something urgently. The Empress nodded. It appears your planet's leaders are demanding communication, she said to Jackie. We have temporarily delayed their signals, but diplomatic protocols suggest we should respond soon. Yeah, showing up with 4 giant spaceships tends to make our governments nervous, Jackie said dryly. Then another thought struck her. Wait, what happens if I say no? To the job, I mean. Then we compensate you with minerals or a small moon, as is traditional, the Empress replied, as though this were obvious, and depart with our gratitude. And if I say yes, Crix's scales rippled with barely contained excitement. Then you come with us, become the first human member of the Royal Healing Corps, help revolutionize emergency medicine across 12 systems. Jackie looked down at the contract again, at the compensation figure that would eliminate her financial worries forever. Then she looked beyond it, through the crystal floor at the Earth below, the planet where she'd just been deemed expendable by a hospital she'd given 8 years of her life to. This is crazy, she murmured. Many great adventures begin with this assessment, the Empress observed wisely. Jackie took a deep breath and looked up, making sure to maintain eye contact with the Empress's central eye as Crix had instructed. Before I agree to anything, I have some conditions. The assembled court gasped collectively, scales flickering in what Jackie assumed was shock at her audacity. The Empress, however, merely tilted her regal head. Proceed. First, I need to be able to bring my cat Hippo. Non-negotiable. Easily accommodated, the Empress said with a dismissive wave. Our vessels maintain multiple ecosystems. Second, I want a clause that lets me return to Earth permanently if this doesn't work out. Reasonable. And third, Jackie hesitated, then plunged ahead. I want a proper medical title that reflects my nursing background, not just advisor. Where I come from, nurses are often undervalued despite being the backbone of healthcare. For a moment the Empress was silent, her 3 eyes studying Jackie intently. Then, to the evident surprise of the court, she made a sound that Jackie's translator didn't convert. Something between a purr and a chime. These terms are acceptable, the Empress declared. You shall be titled Royal Chief of Emergency Medical Practice. And her scales shifted to a warm golden hue. I begin to understand why my child speaks so highly of your species. Jackie glanced at Crix, who somehow managed to look both embarrassed and proud. So the Empress continued, does the Royal Chief of Emergency Medical Practice accept our offer? Jackie looked once more at the Earth below, at Cleveland growing smaller by the minute, at the hospital that had discarded her, at a healthcare system that valued profits over healing. Then she looked up at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent ceiling. Countless worlds, 12 systems, and adventures she couldn't even imagine. You know what? Jackie said, a smile spreading across her face. I believe she does. 3 months into her tenure as Royal Chief of Emergency Medical Practice, Jackie Parker still occasionally pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming. Usually, this happened at moments like now, standing in the observation dome of the medical frigate Celestial Mercy, watching a binary star system rise over the crystalline rings of Cygnus Prime. Still not used to the view? Asked a familiar voice behind her. Jackie turned to see Crix, fully recovered and resplendent in formal regalia that marked their status as royal heir. The draconian scales shimmered with health, all evidence of their crash-landing injuries long vanished. I doubt I ever will be, Jackie admitted, gesturing toward the breathtaking stellar panorama. I used to think the Cleveland skyline was impressive. Cleveland had its charms, Crix replied diplomatically, though considerably fewer stars. Jackie laughed, and considerably more potholes. She turned back toward the vast medical bay behind them, where dozens of beams from across the collective were engaged in what the Draconians had termed primitive medical protocols training, or as Jackie called it, how to save lives when your fancy tech breaks down. 101. Today's lesson had focused on improvised wound closure techniques. The various alien species had watched in fascinated horror as Jackie demonstrated suturing using materials that might be found on any spacecraft: synthetic fiber from uniform fabric, sterilized metal from standard equipment casings, and improvised needle holders fashioned from common tools. "Your training session appeared successful," Krex observed, watching a tentacled medical officer practice stitches on a simulation dummy. "Though I noticed Chief Surgeon Vrel's primary breathing sac inflated with distress when you pierced the simulation tissue manually." "Vrel needs to toughen up," Jackie said with a grin. "Last week he nearly fainted when I demonstrated setting a fracture without bone regenerators." "The Collective's medical corps has grown dependent on technology," Krex acknowledged. "Your perspective has been illuminating, and occasionally terrifying." Jackie's communicator chimed, a sound she'd finally stopped mistaking for her old hospital pager. The holographic display showed a message from the xenobiology department. "The Arcturian ambassador's child still has that rash," she told Krex after scanning the message. "Apparently none of the standard treatments are working. The Arcturians are notoriously sensitive to standard medications," Krex noted. "Perhaps another of your Earth remedies might help." Jackie nodded thoughtfully. "I was thinking calamine lotion. Simple but effective for most species with compatible dermal structures." She made a note on her communicator. "I'll synthesize a batch in the lab later." 3 months ago, the idea of creating alien-compatible medications would have seemed like science fiction. Now it was Tuesday. Hippo sauntered into the observation dome, tail high, completely unfazed by his interstellar lifestyle. The cat had adapted to space travel far more quickly than his human, immediately claiming the Empress's personal chambers as his favorite napping spot. To everyone's surprise, the imperial sovereign had been charmed rather than offended, even going so far as to issue a royal decree that Hippo was to have unrestricted access throughout the fleet. "Your companion creature appears well," Krex observed, as Hippo rubbed against their scaled limb affectionately. "He's living his best life," Jackie agreed. "The kitchen staff spoils him rotten, and he's got 12 systems worth of sunbeams to nap in." Krex made the purring chime sound that Jackie now recognized as draconian laughter. "Much like his human, he has found his place among the stars." Jackie smiled, but her expression turned more serious as she gazed back toward her alien medical students. "I got a message from Ronnie yesterday. Mercy General laid off another 15 nurses. Your former healing facility continues its self-destructive practices," Krex observed. "Inefficient and illogical. That's human healthcare for you," Jackie sighed. "Or at least American healthcare." "And yet," Krex said, their 3 eyes focusing on the diverse collection of beings now successfully practicing the techniques Jackie had taught them, "humans possess extraordinary medical knowledge. Your species learned to heal without molecular regenerators or neural stabilizers. You developed medicine when you barely understood the nature of disease." "We did what we had to do," Jackie said with a shrug. "Necessity is the mother of invention and all that." "A wise saying," Krex agreed. "And now the collective benefits from that necessity." A soft alarm chimed through the medical frigate, and the illumination shifted slightly to indicate a change in the ship's cycle from day to evening operations. "I should check on my patient in isolation pod 3 before dinner," Jackie said, gathering her teaching materials. "The Jovian diplomat with the unusual cardiac arrhythmia." "Ah yes, 3 hearts and yet all beating to different rhythms," Krex recalled. "A fascinating case. Nothing a modified human pacemaker protocol couldn't handle," Jackie replied with professional pride. "Sometimes the old ways work best." As they walked together through the corridors of the Celestial Mercy, various alien medical personnel nodded respectfully to Jackie. Some even performed abbreviated versions of the draconian royal bow, a gesture that still made her uncomfortable despite her impressive title. "You know," Jackie said, as they paused at a junction where their paths would diverge, "sometimes I wonder what Dr. Fleming would say if he could see me now." "Your former colleague at the Earth Hospital?" Krex asked. "Yeah. He always told me I was wasting my talents there." Jackie smiled at the memory. "I don't think this is what he had in mind as an alternative career path though. Perhaps you should invite him to visit," Krex suggested. "The Collective's diplomatic relations with Earth are progressing well. Limited cultural exchanges may soon be permitted." Jackie laughed, imagining the old surgeon's face if she casually invited him for coffee aboard an alien medical frigate. "Maybe someday. For now I've got my hands full teaching an entire galactic collective how to use duct tape in emergency medicine. The adhesive material you requisitioned in such large quantities," Crex's scales rippled with amusement. The Imperial Quartermaster still believes it must be some form of sacred human artifact, given your insistence on its importance. In a way it is, Jackie replied with a grin. Just wait until tomorrow's lesson on improvised splints. The Quartermaster is going to have a fit when I start breaking equipment on purpose. As Crex departed for royal duties and Jackie headed toward the isolation pods, she paused for one more look out a viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, Cleveland, and the hospital that had decided she was expendable. Their loss, as it turned out, had been an entire galaxy's gain. Not bad for an unemployed nurse, Jackie murmured to herself, before stepping confidently forward into her new life among the stars.